President Trump is continuing his crackdown on American cities. We tried to figure out what makes TikTok so addictive. And our food critic is stepping down and finally revealing his face. That's some of what we'll get to on the 7 from the Washington Post. I'm Hannah Jewell. It's Tuesday, October 7th. Let's get you caught up with today's 7 stories. Number 1. President Donald Trump is deploying the National Guard in unprecedented ways. Since June, the Trump administration has sent or pledged to send troops to more than half a dozen Democrat-led American cities, including Los Angeles, D.C., and Memphis. Over the weekend, Trump escalated his efforts. He moved to deploy the National Guard to Chicago and Portland, Oregon, over court challenges and the objections of local officials. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt defended the president's moves in a news conference yesterday.
You guys are framing this like the president wants to take over the American cities with the military. The president wants to help these local leaders who have been completely ineffective in securing their own cities.
But state and local leaders say they do not want or need this kind of help. In a statement on Sunday, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker called the deployment to Chicago Trump's invasion. According to historians and experts who study the National Guard, Trump's maneuvers are unlike any past use of military force. They fear it could impact troop readiness, training, and morale for a force typically deployed to respond to the aftermath of storms and other emergencies. It's the 2-year anniversary of Hamas's attack on Israel. That's our second story. On October 7th, 2023, about 1,200 Israelis were killed when Hamas-led militants poured out of Gaza in a surprise attack. 251 people were taken hostage. Around 20 of them are still believed to be alive in Gaza. In response to that attack, Israel has unleashed 2 years of destruction in Gaza. Since the war began, more than 67,000 Palestinians have been killed in Israel's bombardment and invasion of the territory. That's according to Gaza's health ministry. According to the UN, nearly 2 million Palestinians have been forcibly displaced. That's about 90% of Gaza's population. Over 500,000 people face starvation under an Israeli blockade. And the territory's housing, hospitals, schools, farmland, and infrastructure have been largely destroyed. This week, Hamas and Israeli officials are in Egypt negotiating a new Trump-backed plan to end the war. Number 3. Attorney General Pam Bondi is set to take tough questions in Congress today. Bondi's leadership is under attack from Democrats. They say she has abandoned the Justice Department's tradition of independence from the White House and has weaponized law enforcement. Bondi is also dealing with pressure from Trump and parts of his base. They want her to move more aggressively to prosecute Trump's perceived enemies, whether or not evidence supports such cases. So she is expected to have a hard time when she sits for her first congressional oversight hearing today. She will field questions on the Justice Department's investigations of Trump's rivals, and about her controversial decision to hold back the release of more documents on the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The hearing will start at about 9 a.m. Eastern this morning. Number 4. The CDC recommended the new coronavirus vaccine with a caveat. It has been a confusing few months for people who want to get vaccinated against COVID-19. In August, the FDA narrowed approval of updated coronavirus shots to people aged 65 and older or who have underlying health conditions. Last month, a federal vaccine advisory panel, which was handpicked by Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., recommended that people first consult a clinician before getting the shot. And that's the recommendation that the CDC approved yesterday. The new system is more complicated than it has been in recent years, when vaccines were widely available to nearly all Americans without question or cost. If you were hoping to get an updated shot, we have a handy guide in our newsletter today about how to get one. Find that in our show notes. A snowstorm trapped hundreds of hikers on Mount Everest. That's number 5. Heavy snowfall over the weekend created a dire situation on the lower slopes of the world's tallest mountain. According to Chinese state media, at least 350 people were rescued by midday yesterday, and 200 remain stuck. Everest straddles an international border between Nepal and China's Tibet Autonomous Region. The hikers are stranded on the Chinese side, which has become a well-trafficked tourist destination. Everest tourism has grown in popularity in recent years, leading to overcrowding on climbing routes. More than 6,000 people have successfully summited the mountain, but hundreds have died on its slopes. A post-analysis showed how TikTok keeps some users scrolling for over 4 hours a day. That's number 6. Post reporters collected the watch histories of more than 1,100 people who use TikTok. Over 800 of them were in the US. Their data highlighted how addictive the social media video app can be, even for some of the people who use it the least. A group who were spending about 30 minutes each day on TikTok ended up scrolling through it for double that amount of time after 5 months. And by the end of the experiment, the gap between those who used the app the most and those who used it least had narrowed. The data trends suggest that both groups had developed features of compulsive behavior. One person described their use of TikTok as an addiction. Number 7 is our strongest argument yet that you should subscribe to our newsletter. The Post's food critic is stepping down and finally revealing his face. If you are a foodie in the DC region, you probably know my colleague Tom Sietsema. Well, maybe just his name. To protect the sanctity of his restaurant reviews, Tom has kept his looks a closely guarded secret for the past 25 years. He has donned disguises to eat out at around 10 meals a week to avoid getting any special treatment that could skew his reviews. But the time has come for Tom to move on. He leaves us with these words of wisdom.
I've always said, do we need restaurants? Do we need poetry? Do we need books? Do we need music? Do we need theater? No, not to live, we don't. But don't they make our lives better? Don't they make life more worth living? I really believe that.
So, what does Tom look like? I could not possibly describe such a delightful face, so you will absolutely have to follow the link in our show notes to our newsletter to see it, and to find some of Tom's best reviews. Best of luck with your future endeavors, Tom, and have fun paying for your own dinners. All right, you're all caught up. For your next listen, check out the latest episode of Post Reports. My colleagues tackle the question, how worried should we be about the high energy use of artificial intelligence? Find that episode of Post Reports and more wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Hannah Jewell. I'll meet you back here tomorrow.